Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of This Week in Niche Pursuits News. And today we're going to be talking about 0 clicks from Google. How many searches do people actually do on Google that result in no clicks to organic results? And has that changed over time? And how has AI overviews impacted that? And how has the European Union legislation that's recently passed impacted all of that? There's been a huge study by SparkToro, and we're going to dive into this data because it's really, really interesting for us as publishers because we want to know the trends. Are we getting more clicks? Are we getting less clicks? Is there anything we can do about it? So there's a lot of data to dig into here today. And then we do have a couple of other interesting news stories, including one of a possible recovery from the March Google Core update. And so we'll look at that. But then further down the line here, we're going to talk about a couple of shiny object shenanigans. And Jared and I were just sort of commiserating here before the podcast that, boy, it feels like we've got side hustle after side hustle. And now we've got maybe too many to juggle. So we'll dig into that. But some good results. And Jared has a big announcement, I guess. If you follow his newsletter, you got this announcement already. But big moves happening by Jared here. And then finally, we're going to wrap it all up with 2 weird niche sites. So stick around for that. So Jared, welcome to the show. How you doing?
Good. I was telling you before we started recording, it's a holiday weekend here in the United States. I feel like everybody's already on holiday but us. We are here. We're making sure the news still happens. It's the end of the day. Had to fit it in. Can't miss an episode. People got to have stuff to listen to while they're watching fireworks and eating hot dogs by the pool.
That's right. Make sure the kids are having fun and then push play on the podcast and enjoy some time with Jared and I. So hopefully,
instead of playing the good old American tunes, for your family barbecue, maybe put on the podcast, see if your family likes it.
That's exactly right. Hey, you never know. We might gain another follower or two if somebody does that. But let's jump into the news because there was a very big study done by SparkToro. So our friend Rand Fishkin over there, he's been jumping a lot more into the SEO world again here with, the Google leaks and now here with this 2024 0-click search study. A lot of really interesting findings. And so we're going to just let people follow along. I'm going to share my screen here. But I'm going to basically just click on this big graph, which I believe you can now see that sort of full screen size here, that there's just a lot of data. They dug into this. They have data partners that they work with. It's clickstream data. If people want to look at that, they can read the full article over at SparkToro to do that. But he broke it down into the US versus Europeans. What happens when somebody in the US does a Google search? Did they actually click on any results? And the reason that he split this up is because there was big legislation that was not in favor of Google, that basically, some additional legislation that Google needed to be more open about, what they're doing with search results and that sort of thing. And so has that changed anything is part of the reason for the comparison here. So here's what it says. The conclusion of the study is that in 2024, when Americans search on Google, 41.5% does end up in a click. Okay, so we'll just leave it there for now. We'll dig into the 3 options, but it does end up in a result, in a click, right? 37.1%, they don't do anything. The search ends. They search something and they don't have a follow-up search. They don't click on any results, meaning they must have found their answer, right? They just look at a summary. They look at an AI overview, whatever it is, a snippet. They've got what they wanted. Okay. And then 21.4% of the time they do another search, a follow-up search. How does this compare in the EU, right? European search, not a huge difference, right? We're talking like fractions of a percent. Actually less clicks, Europeans, right? 41.5% in the US down to 40.3%. So a little more than 1% actually click on a result. A little bit more, 37.4%. So 0.3% more Europeans do nothing. right? And then 22.3% do another search. So really kind of interesting. So there's about overall 58.5% zero-click searches in the US and 59.7% zero-click searches in Europe.
Do you ever get stuck in your business and wish you had someone you could turn to for solutions? Well, I think you should consider joining the Niche Pursuits community. You'll get weekly calls with experts on growing a successful online business, and you'll also get assigned a small mastermind group where you can solve your business problems as well as share your wins. For a limited time, I'll let you try out the Niche Pursuits community for just $1. Go ahead and use coupon code PODCAST at checkout in order to get your first month for just $1. Again, that's coupon code PODCAST. Go to community.nichepursuits.com today and see what it's all about. And maybe I'll see you on our call next week. Thanks a lot.
Now, 41% doesn't sound, really that great that ends up in a click, right? But that's actually broken down into 3 potential clicks, with only one of those being organic results, right? So 70,
your website potentially.
Your website, hopefully, right? To unpaid organic results, 70.5% of the time of the actual click ends up in an organic result, meaning 30% ends up somewhere else. Jared, where are these places that people go?
So a couple very interesting things here, but 28.5% in the US of clicks, right? So people that actually do click something, 28.5% of them. So almost 1 in 3 go to a Google property. Remember, they have been in the news for all the antitrust situations, and this is exactly why. So maybe YouTube, because they own that. Google Maps, because they own that. Google Images, Google News, Google Flights. We might talk about that one a little bit later. Even potentially some of this stuff they're experimenting with credit cards. I don't know if you've seen that. So a Google property absorbs almost 1 in 3 of the clicks that happen inside of the SERP, which is pretty low to begin with.
Right. That's just incredible. Right. And then 1% goes to a paid ad.
Now, here's a couple things on that 1%. And I wanted to get your opinion on this. So first off, I would think that would be higher. I don't know why.
Me too.
1% of clicks are going to SERP. They've made it so doggone prominent. They've done so much to make sure that it's so hard to tell the difference between an ad and an organic result. I just would have thought that would have been higher, just back in the napkin feeling.
Yeah, and I think it is. And there's actually a caveat in the study for this issue in particular. They mentioned the use of ad blockers and other things that may have impacted this portion of the study. So they did call out that they're not quite sure that the paid click results that they're reporting are very accurate. And they do have an asterisk here that ad blockers definitely probably impacted that. So that's probably my hunch is like you, Jared, that I think it's probably much more than 1%.
And not to jump ahead, but something else that I thought was really interesting is that clicks to paid ads in the US was 1%. It's 40% higher for Europeans. That's a lot higher. And I'm curious as to why.
Yeah. It's a great question. I don't know. I don't know that answer, but I was going to look at the Google properties.
Yeah.
The difference there, right? I think that's maybe the big difference in the study due to potentially the legislation, the antitrust type things happening in Europe, right? Is that, 28.5% in the US of clicks are happening on Google properties, where only 24% is happening in Europe to Google properties. So that's significant. I mean, that's a significant, if you can do your quick math, Jared, with the percent.
Almost 20% less.
We got 4.5%,
almost 20% less clicks. Yeah.
20%,
Yep. Almost
something.
Yeah.
Less is happening in Europe to Google properties. So that's significant.
It's really significant. And I think you're exactly right. The legislation over there is obviously far more controlling of that with Google, and Google's gotten into probably more hot water over there than they have in the United States. And I would imagine that's what we're seeing as a result of that. We know that Google has no shame in putting their properties anywhere they possibly can get away with, as long as it continues to help them out. So,
yeah, exactly. But I don't know. Is there any? Can we find any positive news in this study? There actually is a lot of data that we're just not going to have time to go over. But it is sort of fascinating and perhaps a little bit disheartening just to realize that, okay, 1,000 searches happen on Google, only 374 or 360 actually end up in a click. And out of those, like, there's this huge percentage, 24 whatever percent, don't end up on an organic result. It's a Google property, right? Or a paid ad.
And Rand has been studying this for a number of years, and it's kind of like the human attention span. It just keeps dropping every year. They do that study, like we finally just passed a huge milestone where we have a less attention span apparently than a goldfish. Has been like the hallmark for decades they've been studying. But it does, as it relates to this, it does seem to go down and down and down. It's interesting that you're scrolling right there, because that was going to be a topic I did think we could maybe make some time to address right there. If you go up just a little bit, this is something Rand addressed right there. He said, is Google losing in search, right? So how does this tie in with the overall narrative that people are not as happy with search? People are not as happy with Google, all the botched rollouts they've had. AI overviews, is it something that actually people want, or is it just something that the executive team want? I'll read from his article. In both the US and EU, searches per searcher, that's a mouthful, let that sink in, searches per searcher are rising. And in the spring of 2024, they were at historic highs. And as he says, that data just doesn't fit well with the narrative that Google's cost themselves credibility, or that internet users are giving up on Google and seeking out alternatives. So it's interesting to see that. He does go on, though, to talk about AI overviews and did they make a big difference in search behavior? And to some degree, he says that the results are a bit mixed, I would say. He kind of goes on and talk about that. We could get into it if we really want to, but we've touched on it enough here. Are people more happy with getting their results in the SERP, or do they want to go off? I guess that's kind of the big question here. Is Google doing this more and more because it's what people want, or are they doing it more and more because it allows them to retain that traffic on their properties and thus make more money from it?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, they're a for-profit company, and so they're always trying to maximize profit while still keeping users satisfied. So they are keep coming back, and so a lot of their own properties, right? Probably, like, quite frankly, right? Like, I use Google Maps, I use Google Flights, and I use these things, and I'm happy with those results. And so they're trying to do this balancing act where I haven't left Google yet. And it looks like the data plays out that others aren't totally dissatisfied with Google. They're searching. The number of searches per searcher was the phrase is still solid
Searches
and going
per
up.
searcher.
In fact, go ahead.
I was going to say, to your point, I mean, I'm certainly have no problem, pulling punches when it comes to Google. But at the same time, when we look at our own websites, like, most of us will increase the ad density on our websites to the point that it either affects users' ability to stay on the page, or to the point that maybe a Google update penalizes us for that, right? Like, we want to maximize the revenue per user on our pages. And to that point, they have shareholders. And if they are continuing to see upward trends in certain areas, perhaps that's why we're seeing what we're seeing.
Right. Exactly. And then just maybe to wrap it up, the AI overviews, they rolled it out to something like 84% of searches at one point, and then they dialed it back to, I don't remember, 15% or something. And we're probably somewhere in the middle now, right? So it's fluctuating so much that while it's mentioned in the study, it's not real solid data just because it hasn't been around for very long. And it is tough to draw a lot of conclusions other than, we can see there are a lot of zero clicks happening, and we have to assume a big portion of that now are these AI overviews that are happening. So
yep.
Okay, so we're gonna move on. We have just two other short sort of news stories that I thought would be interesting to share, And this one in particular is interesting because it is a little bit of a recovery story. So last week we talked about some positive news potentially, from Google. People were seeing a little bit of increase after this spam update had finished rolling out at the end of last week. This is somebody here, the solopreneur.com. Mila here writes about traffic increase, a partial traffic recovery after the March. She writes HCU, but the March core update, I guess, right? That is now include the HCU is included in the core updates. And so if you look at her traffic graph, you can definitely see a turnaround right around the 1st of March, which is like, just eyeballing, it's like almost a 50% increase, right? Going from less than 500 searches a day to close to 1,000, maybe not quite 50%, but getting close there. And what's interesting about this sort of case study is that she walks through all of the steps that she took, right? And so some of the notes about our website, it is an affiliate marketing website. It does not serve ads, though. Even on her informational articles, she does have affiliate boxes. She only manually does any link building or outreach. It was built on a brand new domain. Before the March helpful content update, the website was growing and making an average of $1,000 per month. She goes in the history of where, troubles began, and she saw a lot of issues, right? But then she walks through the steps that she took to hopefully to see some of the recovery, some of the changes that she made. Now, there's something like 8 different steps that she took. But was there anything that jumped out to you, Jared, in terms of the steps she took that maybe had the most impact, you feel like?
She summarized it below. I'll just read the summary super quick because the summary ties up a bit. Number 1, mass disavowing of toxic backlinks. Number 2, improving the relevancy of internal links. Number 3, de-optimizing anchor text. And number 4, building more brand authority and EAT signals. A lot of this is part and parcel with what has been surmised about potential recovery. Certainly building all those external signals to your site, increasing engagement. She started a newsletter on ConvertKit. She built out a lot of social signals from social media sites like Pinterest and Facebook and posting on all those things. So a lot of the things, unfortunately, are probably things a lot of people have tried, and it didn't lead to recovery for them. But I think that it's cool to see someone say, here's what I did, and here's what's happened as a result of it. We haven't seen the pullback graph. I didn't see the pullback graph on there like all the way like a year, because it does see improvement, but only in the last couple months. Like, how does it look in comparison to where things used to be? But again, we've got to start somewhere. And we've talked on this podcast so many times about if we could just start with some stories of recovery, and this is definitely just partial recovery, it would give us all a leg to stand on. And here we have something. We really do.
Yeah, exactly. And so I would recommend people go check it out. The solopreneur.com, shout out there. Thanks for sharing the case study. A little bit of positive news. It is interesting because kind of 3 out of the 4 steps she took, if you will, or conclusions that she came to are kind of related to links, right? Both internal and external links, right? Which has always been the backbone of the internet. And so it's almost like just simplifying this down, mass disavowing toxic backlinks. That's a big process. There's this debate of, should you or shouldn't you disavow? She did it. She felt like it helped. Improving the relevancy of internal links. That anytime I can talk about internal links, I love to, because that's a big part of what I do. I built a software tool, Link Whisper, to help people improve their internal links, right? She may not have used Link Whisper, but she could have to gone in there and quickly see what's the anchor text, how many internal links do all of my pages have, and should I add more, should I remove some? And Link Whisper could make it really fast and easy.
I was summarizing it because I was going to say we should have her on the podcast, but as soon as I saw she didn't use Link Whisper for that, I was like, well, I'm going to have to summarize now because we're not having her on.
Just cross her off the list, huh?
Done.
Well, you know what? Let's go ahead and see if we can invite her, Jared.
Maybe we can have a turnaround story here.
That's right.
Spend an hour
welcome her with open arms.
To your point, Spencer, you could argue all 4 of the things she did are link related. because in many ways, building more brand and more authority, it's really just a link game.
You're right. You're right.
I don't want to oversimplify that, but all this talk and a lot of it's coming down to getting mentions consistently, which link back to you.
Yeah. I mean, it's at the end of the day, there's been a lot of reasons to believe that Google doesn't truly understand the quality of your content all on its own, right? It comes down to some of these more basic things we've seen through the links and through the links, right? They can't really read your website and say that's a quality article versus that one. A lot of it comes down to some of these basic building blocks, right?
Hey, here's something
of links.
Here's something interesting she said that I think should not get lost, because it isn't just about traffic. And I think it's good for all of us to keep that in mind, right? Like, we do look at the Search Console, we look at the traffic data, we look at that. But she said in the end result is not just more traffic, but more affiliate link clicks and more commissions. I've quadrupled my link clicks and I've tripled my income per day since this happened.
Wow.
So, I mean, maybe you don't get a full recovery, but how does tripling your income from whereas now to, with a partial recovery, like that sounds a lot more attractive and enticing to dive into some of this stuff.
Yeah. And that's why I love sharing this kind of stuff, is because we want to see some positive movement, some things. So there's been some micro steps in the right direction here. And so let's reach out to her, see if we can get her on the podcast, have her tell her full story, and hopefully things continue to go well now that we're in July. So let's cover just one very quick final news story here. Basically, if you've been looking at your Google Search Console, it hasn't updated for over 75 hours. I looked this morning and it was like 79 hours, or I don't know exactly how many hours. We're over 80 hours. So how many days is that, Jared? We're at
You're nearing
4 days.
Yeah, exactly. You're nearing
something
4
like
days.
that.
I think 96 hours is 4 days. So
yeah, and so
it's getting close.
That's odd. Something is going on Google Search Console. We don't know if it's just a glitch, or rumor maybe is that there's like a core update about to happen or going to happen, right? Sometimes these things
87 hours. I just logged in, by the way, at time of recording, folks. And this is a very big caveat. It's at time of recording, but 87 hours, Spencer.
Yeah. So that's a long time. So just keep your eye on that. We don't know exactly what that means. And maybe by the time this podcast, most likely by the time this podcast comes out, the data is going to be refreshed. But could that mean that there's some sort of update happening behind the scenes?
Yeah. So. And it's not just people surmising. Like, there's a strong connection in the past with when you see a delay in update in GSC and then an update launching. I don't know why. I could theorize, but no one's ever kind of confirmed or correlated. But yeah, so I'd say you could argue very likely. I saw on Twitter, John Mew denied it. Like, nope, it's just a glitch. It's just a bug, not, or something he said like that, not related to an update. But, history would show that it certainly has been connected at other times in the past. Not always, but we've been talking about how, I was just talking to a client yesterday and they were like, hey, when's the next core update coming? I'm like, well, they never really announce them ahead of time. Oh yeah, they do now, actually. Never mind. But
yeah,
they usually try to squeeze one in here in the summer or the fall so they can get in that doozy of an update right around Black Friday and Chris, they got to have time to get that one in. But wouldn't be uncommon for them to have one come in here in the summer. They've done it before, so.
Yeah, and last week when we posted our podcast on Twitter, a lot of people were saying, hey, now that the spam update is complete, it's about time. That tends to follow one right after the other. I had forgotten that happens, but a couple of people chimed in and said, yeah, that's kind of how Google does it. Sometimes they like finish the spam update and then roll out with a core update, kind of right after that. So all speculation, but keep your eye on Google Search Console and potentially a Google core update coming out soon. So we will leave that as the news topics for today. We're going to jump into our shiny object shenanigans. And I continue to just have some exciting news as it relates to the Facebook bonus program. Honestly, I don't remember what my earnings were last week when I reported them, because I feel like it's just been increasing so much. And so
I think they were in the low 2000s, if I remember correctly, but don't quote me on that.
That's sounds about right, because it's been almost a week, because we're recording a little early this week, right? And I've been clipping along at like $100+ a day in earnings for a little while now. And so I currently sit, and I've got a handy dandy screenshot for anybody watching this. Let me see if I can get the right one. There we go. So I'm currently, at the time of recording,
Woo.
$2,927 in earnings in my first 30 days of the Facebook bonus program. Of course, this Facebook page has been around for a year and a half or so, has 64,000 followers, 65,000 followers. But you can see the earning period. I have 0 days left. So today is the last day in the period. I'm hoping it tops 3,000 just so I can say I made it. But it started June 3rd, ends July 3rd today when we're recording here. So $3,000 from the Facebook bonus program, plus another, I would have to add up the display ad revenue, but it's another $400 to maybe $500 on top of that for the month of June. And so things have gone really, really well. As I explained last week, we have really ramped up the number of times we've been posting per day, like 15 times per day, most of these image type posts. And we've had several that have gone viral. Even in the last 7 days, I think I've had, it was 5 or 6 different posts on Facebook that have reached more than 1 million people each. Just in the last 7 days, like since I recorded last week's podcast. So we continue to, it's not just like 1 or 2 big viral posts. It's like several, right, that are doing well. So I feel like we've hit on some things that are consistently working a little bit better. And just for those people that like stats and are curious, here is just a screenshot of sort of the insights, right? So overall post reach in the last 28 days, 17.5 million post reach, which means that number of people saw it or scrolled past something that I posted. Engagement over 1 million, reactions. These are, people that actually liked it, gave it a thumbs up. 350,000, 90,000 comments in the last 28 days, right? So it's super active Facebook page. And I'm very, I have a positive outlook about the page. I'm excited about it. And yeah, I feel like we've landed on a few things that are working, and we're going to just keep going and hopefully see good things in July as well.
I think the elephant in the room to some degree is like, I feel like we were answering this question a lot for how do I qualify for the Amazon influencer program? It's not really defined, but there's some general things that we can kind of learn from it. Like along those lines, like what are the steps we got to take to be invited to the Facebook bonus program? I know you don't know.
Right.
Well, I think you don't know, but like anything you could give us along the way from what you've gathered.
Yeah, it all comes down to engagement, in my opinion, right? So it's not so much about follower size, although I think, once you get over 2,000 or 3,000, you're probably in the okay range, right? If you can get above 10,000, maybe that's a little bit better. But it's more about just engagement, and are you active, right, on the page? If you have a really big page with 100,000 followers and you just post once or twice a week and it's ho-hum, you're probably not going to get invited. But if you have 5,000 followers and you're posting 10, 15 times a day, and a large percentage of your audience is actually commenting and interacting, I think you're going to get invited. So while I don't have a hard set rule of like, you need this many likes or, I just think try to be really engaging and active. And I think that's going to increase your chances.
It's a huge accomplishment. I mean, I know a lot of people are like, oh, I got invited. Cool. Let's do this. But there's clearly like a reason to strategically pursue this because there are other benefits. Like you mentioned, you estimate about $500 in ads from your display ad network as well. So there's reasons to pursue this, and getting invited to the bonus program seems like a cherry on top. Although I'd argue maybe it's more like the cupcake with the other things you're doing, the cherry on top,
The website now is the cherry on top. You're right. Like at this point, it's surpassed. I never made 3,000 in a month with this particular website. So yeah, it's really interesting. I don't know how well it will go, but I feel like based on what I've seen, like it's almost like a snowball. Like we found some things that are very engaging. We're staying active. our audience continues to be engaged. And so I don't see any reason why it would slow down dramatically. I can't expect that I'm going to have crazy viral posts every month, but if I can have some that are close to 1 million, right, or 500,000 just consistently day in and day out, yeah, it's kind of a fun little business. So
what a world we live in, Spencer. Here we have Google taking helpful content that engages readers and just destroying those website owners. And then we have Facebook saying, we'll bonus you out for it.
Yeah, no, it's wild. And I think about that a lot, about like, Google has this Google Discover engine that really they want this type of content that is just really engaging and click-worthy, which is what I'm posting on Facebook. But this website doesn't show up in Google Discover. They just haven't figured that out.
Because it's unhelpful content, Spencer. That's why.
It's unhelpful content.
It's unhelpful content. Forbes is better for it.
Yeah. Apparently.
Clearly it's unhelpful given those numbers you have right there. I mean, post it on some other channel and it gets in front of 17 million people. But, it's unhelpful content, Spencer. I don't know if you knew that.
Google doesn't like it. It's unhelpful. It doesn't have enough links, right? It all comes down to the
That's
links.
what it is. Yeah.
So
we'd be lucky if they actually told us that. Anyways, sorry, I digress.
No, I just recorded a video on this for my YouTube channel. So, follow the Niche Pursuits YouTube channel because there'll be a video coming out soon if people want more, sort of in-depth analysis of what I'm doing. I'll leave it at that.
Congratulations.
Thank you. What are you working on?
Spencer, I bought a newsletter.
That's a way to announce it right there. You bought a newsletter. You messaged me a few days ago and told me this, and I was like, you did what now?
Yeah, that was actually, I think, your response.
It might be. So what happened? Like, how do you find a newsletter, and what makes you decide to buy a newsletter?
Well, one of the good things about being a podcast host is you meet a lot of people over the years, So when we had the podcast, I don't know, 6 months ago, maybe less than that, Sean Markey, long story short, and I talked about this in my email this week from Weekend Growth, but I found out he was selling a newsletter. He mentioned a little bit about it, piqued my interest, and one thing came to another. We made a deal happen very quickly, and we took over this newsletter. So we bought a newsletter. It's called The Slice. You can go see it. I'm telling you, the newsletter I bought, theslice.co.
I love it.
So there it is. That's the newsletter. I guess we're building in public now.
Yeah.
It is, and this is what really intrigued me. The tagline, who it's being marketed to, who's on the list, to the best that we could determine based on looking through the data of this list that's been around for 2 or 3 years, this email, your essential digest for the solopreneur's journey. I mean, that's kind of a lot of this market that we work in, Spencer. Certainly in my agency, I work with a lot of solopreneurs. I work with a lot of single owner businesses, small business owners, other business owners. Certainly on the podcast, we talk to a lot of solopreneurs. We interview a lot of solopreneurs. Weekend Growth, the list is full of solopreneurs. It feels right up my alley, right at my agency's alley. And so it felt like a very good acquisition for us to make.
Hey everyone, Spencer here, founder of Niche Pursuits. Are you adding a new internal link pointing to each article you publish? You should be. Ever find it time-consuming and a bit overwhelming? Remembering what content you publish and deciding which anchor text to use can be a real headache. What if there was a better way? Well, that's exactly why I created Link Whisper. Simply click Add Inbound Internal Links, and Link Whisper will scan your site in seconds and suggest the most relevant links with appropriate anchor text for your new article. Now simply check the box next to the internal links you want to add, and Link Whisper will add these links for you. No need to go into each article, edit, and add the link. It's already done. No more manual internal link building or guesswork. Just efficient, accurate linking that saves you time and improves your SEO. Transform your content strategy with Link Whisper. Start linking smarter, not harder. Use the coupon code PODCAST for $15 off. Head over to linkwhisper.com and use coupon code PODCAST to get $15 off.
Now, I think you shared some stats on the newsletter size and maybe even revenue. Is that something that you can share?
Revenue is 0 for the
Okay, that
newsletter.
one's easy.
That one's easy. So subscribers are just over 6,000.
Nice.
It's been a bit dormant since about April, but it was getting consistent emails once per week. It has a flow and a cadence to it. It's a flow and cadence that we've already, within the first week of owning it, built out our entire process internally. So we already have our team assigned to writing and creating the content every single week. And then we've added some things to it. And you'll be happy to know that every week, one of the segments or the blocks we've added is we're featuring a solopreneur's journey from the Niche Pursuits podcast.
Ooh, all right. Fist bump.
Hey, I know I hadn't told you that one yet. So
I love it. That's like free advertising.
Pretty much. So this upcoming week, I think the email goes out on Friday. We're still trying to find the right date. Email goes out this Friday, the 5th. So the same day this podcast is released. And we're featuring Kevin Espiritu's interview we did last year, which is a fantastic solopreneur journey. And we'll keep featuring one every week and whatnot. But so that's kind of the metrics about 6,000 or so people on the list. Pretty engaged. It was getting open rates well above 40%.
That's really good.
And so yeah, I'm very excited about it.
So tell me about your monetization plan. Is it selling ad spots, sponsorships, or does this become kind of a funnel potentially for your agencies?
All of the above. And I'm happy to report we've owned it for a week now. We already have a sponsor for the first 4 emails we're sending.
Is that right? I don't know who it is, but I imagine it just comes back to your network, right? Your connections.
Exactly.
Of like,
yep.
Maybe even from doing it in public.
Yeah, probably both, probably to some degree. I mean, that's the thing. The great thing about having Weekend Growth is not every sponsor that sponsored Weekend Growth is a good fit for this, but certainly many of them are. I sent literally one message, a little back and forth. Obviously, I don't know much about this list yet, so the deal was pretty attractive for the brand that said yes, because I'm like, I don't know how it's going to perform for you. I don't even know who's on this list yet.
Let's go with the lowest thing you're willing to give me.
Yeah. What do you want to pay?
Yeah.
No one's getting rich over here yet, but sponsorship, certainly we've made that work very well at Weekend Growth. And it's a very well documented model for emails to get paid on right now. And as you mentioned, it's going to tie in, I would imagine, to some degree nicely with Weekend Growth, some of the services we offer there. And certainly for some 201 Creative, my agency works a lot of solopreneurs as it is. And so I think that if you want to get the 411 on everything that we're going to do, I've already written the email for next week for Weekend Growth. It's kind of funny, very meta here. On Weekend Growth newsletter, I write now about how I'm going to grow the Slices newsletter. But yeah, I'm going through the whole thing. It's another one of these 3,000 or 4,000 word emails. So if you want, just go get signed up for the Weekend Growth newsletter, and I will be emailing that out next week. But yeah, there's so many monetization plans that it's just fascinating, like what we hopefully will be able to do. And who knows, maybe it won't work. I don't know, but I thought that everything lined up to where it was worth a shot at it. So
yeah, I like it. In terms of acquisition, right, and kind of having a side project, if you will, something that can potentially fuel your main thing. It is, in my opinion, not a bad idea, right? It may just make money on its own and never impact, your agency or Weekend Growth or anything, right? But it has the potential to have a lot of synergies. And so I think that is smart. So if I'm counting properly, you now have at least 4 newsletters. You've got the Slice, you've got Weekend Growth, you've got 201 Creative, and your niche sort of newsletter that you've talked about here on the podcast.
I don't really have a 201 Creative newsletter.
Okay.
I should
got an email list.
Yeah. And guess what? I wasn't planning on talking about this, but this morning I found a newsletter that I've apparently been building for 4.5 years of 15,000 people. One of my HCU hit websites has had a pop-up on it and has several autoresponder sequences that I built out and that has been firing for 4 years. And it has, I discovered this morning, 14,000 plus people on it.
Wow.
So I have another newsletter that I don't know. I don't have any more side project room to work on stuff, but yeah, that's a whole other conversation for another day. So man,
maybe after 5.5 years, you'll have time to tackle that newsletter?
One thing at a time, man. Oh man. Yeah, that was kind of a funny discovery, but that site, ironically, that site still does very well in Bing. So even though I lost a lot of Google
Yeah.
traffic, it still does great in Bing. So it still gets decent enough traffic. You know what this whole thing feels like? You kind of brought it up, so I'll just kind of tie it together here. It feels like I bought a starter website that is in a shoulder niche to my main niche.
Yeah.
Like let's say that you own a website. This is pre-HCU potentially, but let's say you owned a content website all about credit cards. Like that was your main thing. Helping people pick credit cards, all that. We were talking about Google credit card, getting into the credit card game just a little while ago, so that's why it's on my mind. And I didn't go out and buy a second credit card website here, but I did buy a starter site that talks about like a sub niche of credit cards. Maybe like it's a starter site. It's got 100 articles. It's got some traffic, but it's not earning money yet about travel credit cards. And that's kind of how I look at this, right? The buying and selling of websites and content assets has been around for a long time. To some degree, I'm just playing that in the email newsletter space now.
Yeah. Yeah. You may end up becoming an email newsletter aggregator on a larger scale. Who knows?
There are those. I don't know if you've dug into that. There are some large ones, and
I've heard of some.
Yeah, there's some really successful ones. So it'll be a fun experiment. I decided that this one was able to be shared, so I hope everybody enjoys it. If you want to go get on the email list, you can see the emails that we're putting together and we're sending out. We'll be tweaking them based on how people engage. So they'll probably change a decent amount of the next month or two as then we settle into the cadence. And for a lot of you listening, hopefully it's helpful for solopreneurs. Would love your feedback if they're helpful or not, because we're still trying to figure this stuff out. Just got this a week ago. We did send out one email, by the way, last week.
Very good.
And guess what? Open rate was 37%.
Hey, that's solid. That's
After
very good.
2 or 3 months off, So I don't know. Green shoots, hopefully.
That's great. That's exciting. This is gives us a lot more to talk about in future episodes. So I'll be following along. Excited to see how the slice goes, and
hopefully you'll start seeing all that referral traffic to the Niche Pursuits podcast.
That's right. It's listed in all the newsletters. So awesome. No, that you bought a newsletter. I mean, that's never happened here on the podcast. So
I do wish I'd been in the room when you heard rather than just on Messenger, because it sounded quite surprised. I would have loved to see the reaction.
I was a little surprised because we've talked about how you're too busy to have a side hustle, and then you did what now? You got another one. Okay.
I know.
No, very cool. All right. People I know love the weird niche sites that we cover. Today's weird niche site, the one that I'm going to talk about, is kind of inspiring because it's doing extremely well. A lot of times we talk about these weird niche sites that they're cool and maybe they get some traffic, but they're not making any money, type thing. This one is making a lot of money. And I know that because the person has publicly shared how much money they're making from their website. So let's maybe just start with that, like the end result here. This person, Ash Young, on Twitter, has shared that the first 6 months of the year are done. What a year it's been so far. He's up 50% year on the year. Next stop, $10 million for the year. He has a screenshot here. So far this year, they've made 4 million pounds is the currency. So over 4 million pounds for carmats.co.uk. And so his website, it's an e-commerce website, but I love it because it's extremely niche, right? We've talked about used car websites. You might have car part websites, but this is just like one single car part.
One car part.
Well, floor mats, right? So lots of different floor mats, but there's all sorts of accessories for cars. The entire website is for car mats. So carmats.co.uk. He's hoping to make $10 million this year. He's already made $4 million or 4 million pounds this year. Incredible. I don't know why this blows my mind so much, Jared, but are there really that many people buying car mats in the UK online from one website? I mean, that's just it just seems like such a huge number.
How old is this? How old is this project?
So let me pull up. So if I go over here, it looks like about 2020 is when it started.
Yeah.
So it's a few years old, right? He's been working on it. And so in fact, if I go ahead and just pull up, I'll share my screen here for Ahrefs. You can see that at least the traffic sort of made its first blip in 2020.
Yep.
Right. But its traffic has been increasing. It looks like actually it got hit in the March core update. I mean, it's definitely down. It could be a seasonal thing for all I know. But now it's done pretty well here in late June. So it's getting anywhere from 20 to 25,000 organic searches a month, and it ranks for, the usual suspects, if you will: car mats UK, car mats, rubber car mats, floor mats, et cetera, right? So it is doing well in Google, and I have to imagine that's where a lot of its traffic comes from. However, if we go over to SimilarWeb, you can see that they do a lot of paid search as well, right? So organic is only about 20% of their traffic. Another 20% is direct. Almost 10% is social, but then almost 50% is paid search. So they have clearly figured out a model where they're able to pay for traffic.
Yeah.
It's profitable. They sell the car mat. And then people, come back and buy more, hopefully.
E-com, you can really drive a lot of sales if you find the right, concoction of ads, price points, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And so, we don't often cover a lot of e-commerce websites, but it's just such a narrow niche, like, one product, right? Just the car mats. That's it. And they just become the car mat website in the UK. Like, who else are you going to go to online if you want to buy a car mat?
Man, talk about niching down, right?
Yeah, niche down. And it's cool because you can select your manufacturer. You've got an Aston Martin, right? You got the DBX, and
you just selecting your car, the one.
Yeah,
you own,
yeah. And there you go. Boom. It's on sale for $21.99. I can get my car mat. But so super user friendly, obviously. Yeah, cool website, and it's just very cool that Ash Young here is kind of sharing the entire journey publicly, sharing his numbers, etc. Just great to see.
I went and looked for my car, but I don't think they sell it in the UK. Not available.
It's one of those old Volkswagen Beetles or something.
Hey, I owned one of those. That was my first car.
Is that right? Hey,
72 VW Bug.
Hey, nailed it.
I don't have that car anymore, though.
Probably wish you did.
I love that thing. I love that thing. It was a piece of junk, but I love that thing.
Yeah, there you go. That's my weird niche site. I mean, they're doing everything right. So if you want to truly see a quote, I wouldn't say weird, but definitely a very niche e-commerce
site, yeah.
Website, and you want to see one that's doing really well, like, hey, go check out this example. They're doing great. They're growing, and they're making a lot of money. So there you go.
I thought maybe you'd take a different approach this week, after my incredibly weird niche last week. Maybe you'd come in swinging, try to one-up me. I see you went the opposite, and you're just like, I'm not even going to do a super weird niche this week.
You kind of covered that category for like a few weeks, I think. Like we'll ease our way back into that.
I haven't checked recently, but I didn't see anybody in the comments for last week's episode disagree about it being the weirdest niche ever. I don't know if somebody went on to say that because I haven't checked in a while, but certainly in the first day or two I popped in and, I didn't see anybody disagreeing that last week that might have been the weirdest niche site ever.
Yeah, I think we got a lot of boxes checked last week for sure. So,
but well done.
All right. What do you got for us, Jared?
Can't follow last week, but mine is weirder than yours, but also not all that weird. So we have really had a let off of last week's weirdness this week. Mine's not all that weird either, but I think quirky, cool, and kind of interesting, and definitely weird in terms of how these sites come about. My website is keybr.com. I still haven't really determined what key BR stands for. If you have any ideas or if you see it without me knowing, let me know. It's, in essence, at least to the extent I've taken part in it, it's a typing both test and to some degree method to improve your typing skills.
Mm-hmm.
It is at its core a test. And Spencer, I'm going to actually ask you to share my results if you can. I did give you a screenshot of that.
I do have this screenshot.
It is a typing test at its core. And so here I took the test. And so what I did was, you can see on the screen if you're watching. If not, I'll explain it to you. They basically give you a set of words to type. Mine was rent, rate, tilt, neat, taller, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then there's actually a heat map there as I type this. I don't really know what it means, but there's a heat map there. And I went through it all. Now, I took the test. My speed was 73 words per minute. Okay. I think I used to be a lot higher than that, but maybe I've slowed down.
That's decent though.
Who's counting? I don't work as hard as I used to either. And how about this though? My accuracy, Spencer, was 99.17%.
That's incredible.
It's like tortoise in the hare. I'm like the hare. Like I get there, but I get there effectively.
That's right. No mistakes to fix.
I get a score, right? And I guess I don't know what all keys means, but anyways, it gives you a daily goal and it kind of keeps track of what you're doing. And, it teaches you, they have a whole tutorial when you first appear on the site on how to type better. And so I don't know. I think I learned typing in high school, if you can believe that. Like, that's how old I am. Like, they actually taught typing. It was one of the best classes I ever took. I don't think they do that anymore. And so people have to kind of learn other ways now. This is a really cool website.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. And I know other typing websites exist, but I have never heard of this one. Right.
So what do you say? You want to do it live? You willing to take a test, do it live for us?
That's a lot of pressure. But, I'll do it for Niche Pursuits listeners.
Let's do it. Let's see what you get. And, I think you just have to go to the homepage and just start taking the test.
Okay. So I'm on the homepage. So I just start typing. I see the first word is rare. Right? Yep. Like I just go with that. I did. Okay. Well, let's.
So it's like rare 9R. Maybe I shouldn't say that's why you're typing. I might throw you off. I'll let you go. He's taking the test right now, folks. If you're watching, he's about halfway through. So it's a super quick test. Just random words. He's doing pretty well, I have to say. So I don't feel too confident at this point, but we'll see. Maybe a late surge.
Maybe I perform well under pressure. So am I done or do I keep going?
You're done.
100% accuracy.
100%? I thought my 99 was good. You got to.
They gave me a lot of words I like. Ear and inner and I don't remember what else I had.
Wait, what's your words per minute is 77. What was mine? 73. Yours is 3. So
boom.
Pretty close, but you beat in both categories. I thought for sure I would have nailed you on the accuracy. Wow, 100%.
Apparently I perform well under pressure here.
That is really fast. Good for you.
I have a funny story to tell about this.
Did I secretly discover some weird niche that you're incredibly passionate about?
Well, it just reminded me of a memory, but maybe it'll trigger a weird niche site. Is that my son has been on, I think there's Monkey Type or something. It might be monkeytype.com. I should look that up. Where you basically do this thing and you practice, and he super fast, like over 100 words per minute.
Wow.
Right. And my mother came to dinner one evening. We had her do it. And, it's grandma and she's just trying to figure out how to do the laptop. And somehow she got like one finger was off or something. She got like 0% accuracy and it was like 10 words per minute. And it was just, pretty hilarious to compare.
Not good is what you're saying.
So I didn't get it from my mother. I'll thank my dad's side for the typing fingers, I guess.
Well, excuse me, I got you on late afternoon here. In terms of some of the other stats, so it's doing pretty well. It's a DR 67 in Ahrefs. I say only. I mean, at DR 67, you kind of think maybe more. It ranks for 13,000 keywords, but I mean 435,000 monthly organic visits, again according to Ahrefs. Wow, it's up to 450 now since I pulled those stats this morning. Hey, look at that. That's an interesting
History,
organic traffic
right?
graph.
Something's going on there, but
Got destroyed by a couple
pretty
updates.
pretty consistent since a
Mm-hmm.
couple years ago.
It's been humming along, right?
Yeah,
Monetization. Well, there's ads everywhere. I mean, again, ads like we're used to for these kind of weird niche free sites. I wouldn't call them distracting, but they're on every corner and below and up above and all that.
right,
Here's something
right.
that's interesting. There is a link that says remove ads, and you can set up an account, and your account is $10 lifetime to get a no ad experience. At that kind of traffic, I've got to imagine most people are just dealing with the ads, but they're probably getting a healthy chunk of change with the ad density they have and that kind of traffic they're generating.
Right. I would think so. And you probably get a lot of direct traffic, would be my guess. If you're getting that much organic traffic, a lot of people, once they discover it, are just coming back, right?
They just kind of come back here. They're just going to either bookmark it or they're just going to remember it.
Mhm.
Again, don't know what KeyBR stands for. KeyBR, KEYBR.com is the website.
Some sort of keyboard abbreviation, right?
Maybe, yeah, I don't know.
But it's close.
So, anyways, I thought it was a really cool site. I'm not really in the
I like
world
it.
of practicing my typing anymore. I feel like I type enough emails every day. I get enough practice, but I certainly can see a huge chunk of the population that would find this really valuable.
Yeah. So good find. I'm glad I was able to show up and not embarrass myself typing. I really do type on the internet every now and again, and so it came in handy.
I'm going to remember
recording here.
to maybe cater my challenges a little bit better next time. Maybe do a little bit more research so I have a better, higher odds. I thought 99% accuracy. I'll win that. Let's give him a challenge, boy.
I'm surprised I did that. We could probably record this 10 times and I wouldn't do it again. So,
like you said,
that's one for the history books.
Are you're the guy they put out at half court at an NBA game, and they're like, you get one half court shot for $1 million, and you're like, bam, sink it.
That's right. Couldn't do it in practice, but put me in front of a crowd, I'm good to go.
There you go.
That's how it is. So,
has anyone ever told you that you'd make a good podcast host? Good under pressure.
No, they haven't actually. Yeah. That's why I gave it to somebody else.
Maybe another calling for their life.
Very good. Well, thank you everybody for hopefully spending your holiday weekend. If you're in the U.S., happy 4th of July weekend. If you're not in the U.S., happy weekend anyways. Thanks for joining us here. Hopefully you enjoyed the news, the Weird Niche site, our side hustles, a lot of exciting things going on. And we'll talk to you next time. Thanks a lot.
Thanks a lot, everyone. Have a great weekend.
Hey there, thanks so much for listening to the Niche Pursuits podcast. Did you know that Jared and I are members of a private group called the Niche Pursuits Community? And today I want to share with you how you can join for just $1. The Niche Pursuits Community is a private members area for niche online publishers to mastermind and grow their businesses together. We hold weekly calls live with experts where you can ask questions. These experts share tips on Amazon Influencer, Google Discover, building email newsletters, getting traffic from Facebook, and other strategies to grow your online business. You'll also be assigned a mastermind group of 4 or 5 other people in a similar stage in business as you. Dive deep into your business issues and get your problems solved. If you use coupon code PODCAST at checkout, you'll get your first month for just $1. Go ahead and give it a try. Come join me, Jared, and lots of other digital entrepreneurs inside my private group at community.nichepursuits.com. And be sure to use coupon code PODCAST. I'll see you on the inside.